Hello and welcome to another episode of Sustainability Sparks, a fireside chat series with green innovators. I am your host, Vidhi, who is taking you on an exciting journey to ignite sustainability for leaving a lasting impact on our people and the planet. Before I introduce our today's special guest, let us introspect a little. What do you do with the waste that is generated at your house? Do you segregate it and dispose it? Or do you dispose it all together? What do you think happens to the waste once it leaves our households? How does it impact the people who are collecting this waste? Imagine walking by an open garbage dump. What happens? The first thing that affects us is the smell. Now imagine we have fellow human beings who venture out into such open dumps and retrieve all of that material and all of those products that hold value and bring it back into the supply chain. We call them waste pickers, but they are the ones keeping our surroundings clean. They are the ones conserving our resources and upholding the current circular economy. They are ideally, as per our visionary guest, the green force. I think you may have guessed till now, who am I talking about? Well, today for our episode, we have with us a leader who is an epitome of women empowerment and has dedicated her life in restoring the dignity of our Safai Sathis. We are proud to have with us Ms. Nalini Shekar, co-founder and executive director, Hasiru Dala, a social impact organization that focuses on securing justice for the waste pickers through interventions and co-creation. Welcome to our fireside chat, Nalini. We are extremely
Thank you.
honored to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Um, Before we go on to what exactly you are doing at Hasiru Dala, we would be very curious to know about your journey and about your story to understand what motivated you to work for the dignity of our waste pickers and what was that one source of inspiration that drove you to start this organization.
It's a very old history, so to think about. So I was working in Bombay University teaching, and specifically on the on different kinds of teaching tools for preschoolers. So then when we were doing it, we were just experimenting with slum children around, and getting excited with the new things that I wanted to do. And suddenly I realized whatever I was doing is actually not reachable for the people that I was trialing with. So that kind of told me that what I'm doing and where I should be focusing. But more focus came when I was joined SNDT Women's University in Pune adult education department, where we actually looked at we didn't want to look at adult education as teaching ABCD or 1 2 3 4, so we were looking how do we empower waste picker. This I'm talking in 93, where there was no solid waste management rules, nothing was there, and waste pickers were not even considered as workers. So then we started moving around in Pune city and checking out who are the most vulnerable people that we can work with. And we saw a huge number of children working in waste picking. Then through them, we went to their moms and then said, if you have a better working condition, will you send your children to school? And so that's how our conversation with waste pickers started. And and then we went waste picking with them, understood what they are doing, did everything that they did, ate everything they ate. So then we came to the slum where they lived, and we noticed that they were in the edges of the slum, not even inside the slum, outer ring. So then that really for me, growing up in Bangalore, very protected. So it was a shock to see the kind of, for the first time I saw that kind of a discrimination. And what we were experiencing was that time. So all the women that we spoke to and worked with were all Dalit from Marathwada region. When there was a lot of drought, they had moved into Pune. So, and this is very easy to, when you're a new person in a city, nobody believes and gives you a job, right? I mean, you need reference. So easiest job is to go waste pick, because there's no employee-employer relationship and there's a flexibility of time. You can tend to your children and also do this work. So they get into it, and then that became a large group, and nobody taught them how to do waste picking. They have invented this work.
Mhm.
Resource recovery in waste was invented by waste pickers. That's what one of our Latin American waste picker, passionately talks. We invented this job and we invented the recycling industry.
Mhm.
So then I was also looking at them, so strong women, because they work on the street. They have to fight with the local authorities, and then uniform personnels, and then citizens, and pigs and dogs and snakes and everything, right? So, and you come back home, they're smiling and laughing like anybody else. So I really saw that resilience in this community, and that attracted me. So it was in 93, I think. Those days we asked some of the very rich families in certain areas of Pune, you segregate waste, our people will come and pick it up. So that's how we started our my journey with them, and my connection with them is, as a community, they are very, very resilient. That attracts me. So that gives me energy and learning, and there's nothing to crib about in life. So that's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, that is a very wonderful start to something that you've built over the years till now. And now, I think Hasiru Dala is kind of a organization that a lot of us, lot of we youth who enter into the space of whether it is sustainability, whether it is waste management or circular economy, identify with looking kind of a leader to look up to, as to how you've started this work ground up right at the grassroots level, bringing in the main kind of people who are actually uh, uh, directly connected to whatever is happening on ground. If you could tell me about your journey, from the day you started Hasiru Dala as an organization until today, how has your journey been? What have been those wow moments that you must have experienced, with also parallelly seeing the regulatory framework being built in this space, how it has benefited to the organization, and if it has benefited to the waste pickers in any way?
So I don't think there's any wow moment kind of a thing. It's a process. The change is a process for us. And so maybe wow moment was when I saw these waste pickers in the slum, in an marginalized places. But where I came to Bangalore back in 2010. I was in the US for 10 years, and then I came back here in 2010, where I was just saying, okay, maybe I should do something relaxing and doing some gardening, and those kind of ideas were there. And I came and asked people, how many waste pickers are there? These are the people who are working in this space. And no, but they said, no, there's no waste pickers. I said, what are you saying? This is a city with so much waste on the street, and whenever a municipality or a corporation has a gap in service, waste picker fill it. And I saw a lot of gaps in Bangalore collection system. I said, there is no way there is no waste pickers. No, 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 there were waste pickers. We included them as Paura Karmikas. And of course, there were more than 35,000 waste pickers we estimated. So I said now, and there was a lot of discussions were happening among the citizens, the committed citizens, on solid waste management. And when I went and talked to them, they were absolutely on the right track of doing decentralization of waste management and engaging, citizens to do it. I said, yeah, decentralized, but who will do that work? You know. And then I talked about waste picker. They said we don't know how to work with waste pickers, so we started. Just then we had started organizing waste pickers, and And then we negotiated with them. Usually environmentalists, citizens who are environmentally conscious, not necessarily workers with a labor organization like us, but I wanted to make a change. That is the gap I saw in Pune. I said, we must work together. If you don't work together, there's nothing. We have to step up and say, okay, we'll come halfway. Can you come halfway? So, we have to negotiate. So that negotiation started right there. And because there was also very few of us, and it's not like this city has so many people in what we knew. We were like 2 3 of us. What can we do unless we leverage other people's skills and knowledge and commitment they have for the solid waste management? And also, we had come in a stage where we can't say, okay, only labor rights. We have to look at waste picker labor rights within the circularity, within the solid waste management. Then only it makes sense for both waste pickers and the environment and the solid waste management. So that's how I started working with them, organizing, and we had a lovely opportunity to intervene in Lok Adalat, that is alternate dispute resolution system within High Court. And then we went and spoke to them. We had done a behind the envelope calculation. We sat in one of the biggest, markets, waste market here. And 3 days, I just wrote down how many vehicles went out of that place for recycling. And I came back to the court and said approximately 600 tons they're managing in Bangalore. So what are you giving them? Because they are, of course, they're doing for their livelihood, but the side effect is positive. Your clean cities you have gap in services filled, and then you're also recovering so much, and less is going to landfill. So that's the time the Lok Adalat said, okay, let's give them identity card. So that is what we actually asked, because when we started working with waste picker, talking to them, the first thing they said is there's so much harassment for them from public and from in the government officials and then police, everything. So they said we want some kind of an authorization to do the work we do. In 2010, it was still not very clear whether that waste belonged to, when it is on the street, is it the owners or is it the state? Of course, now it is very clear it is state, but then it was not. And that was also days when we didn't have any kind of ID card. They didn't have voter IDs. They didn't have, because they're most marginalized. Even the Dalit groups had not worked with them, because they're really, really, they're marginalized because of their caste and because of their work, both. Um, and then they were most of them were on pavement when Hasiru Dala started. There were a lot of children in this sector. So those are something that we really wanted to address. And then we didn't have Aadhaar card, nothing, no ID card of their own. So then we said, okay, occupational ID card should be given. The government agreed, and we really carefully crafted together a circular which authenticates the waste picker. And it's not like if you say, I'm giving an ID card, many people will come. We didn't want that to happen. So we wanted one citizen or one group like ours signing it, and one the health inspector would sign. So there is an authenticity for the thing. And then the first ID card was given with the logo of the city and signature of the commissioner. Before, Pune also had given ID card that was more a union ID card that is endorsed by the city. Here we said, city, you have to own their data. You have to own the people, because we really wanted the city to recognize them. There was such an invisible force. But look at them. I mean, in Bangalore, I think 70, 80 years ago, they started collecting the bones. After bones, they started collecting, the coal. Wherever there was hotels, they would collect the coal. Even till today, Bombay, some of them still use it in the old bakery in Bombay. Today also they use oven, so they use there. And then we used to have coal railways, so they would go along the railway and pick it up. And then, of course, they came with iron filings. The city started growing. They would go with magnet for iron filing. And then there were people who started glass, and then paper. And of course, the plastic came. So there is so much work that they have done. There is so much of rich history of resource recovery in the city. And there's so many people who are doing it. So we needed them to come within a legal framework. That's how the journey of Hasiru Dala started. And ID card was then, of course, in 2011, it was given. Then in 2016, it became a law, national law, to give an occupational ID card.
Okay, okay. Oh, that has been sounds like a very extraordinary journey that has happened right from your initiation of working in 93 to all the developments that have happened till today with you. And I think getting an occupational ID card for them was, I think, one of the most important
Yeah.
changes and transformation that happened, where they actually have a recognition in society, and not just from the recognition point of view, but I guess also these id cards matter for the services that
Yeah.
they can apply for, right from health and safety, medical services, education for their children, and so on and so forth. I'm sure this journey must have not been easy. It must have been a lot of ups and downs in this whole journey. If you could share with us some of the challenges that you faced or you still face in this sector, and how have you been able to overcome a few of them?
So the first challenge was waste picker in themselves. I don't look like them. I don't do the work they do. I'm very different from them, right? So acceptance was a challenge. It's not new to me because in '93 also same thing happened. So we would go and tell them, look, we'll all organize and we'll get ID cards. Nobody believes. I mean, who are you? You're coming here. And I think in '93 I was still young and would go on a motorbike and talk to them, and here I was much older, still going on a scooter, but same reaction. Who are you? Why should we trust you? Why should we work? Because usually most of this poor people are also cheated. People will come and give me 3,000 rupees, I'll give you a pension, I'll get you a pension. They've been cheated so many times. It's very difficult for them to understand. What we did in Pune, exactly the same thing we did. Going, you just go. And sometimes waste pickers, one of my colleagues was saying, they would go under this rainwater, drain, so that they don't have to talk to you. Like one person, Anama here said, okay, these women are coming for so many times. Let's trust once. Same thing happened in '93. Suman Bai there in Pune. I said, okay, let me trust you and do it. So that one person became 250, and today we have 25,000 people. So that trust, gaining that trust was the most toughest thing. So, and then when we brought them, like 25, 30 people started coming. We have a meeting on every 17th of the month. It continues even till today. So 25 to 30 people came for that meeting. And then we told them there won't be waste on the street in 10 years. And nobody believed. I mean, what are you talking? And also for waste pickers, future means like a week or 10 days, not like, because their life expectancy is so low, they can't even imagine what happens after 10 years, right? So it was quite a journey. And then actually when they saw the ID card and they got it, and that's the time the trust started, you know, coming to us. And also, like, there would be some police roundups, and then people would call and say, you said you will help, your police has taken us, can you come? So we would go, because any theft in that area, police would round them up and make them sit in the police station for the whole day. Then what happens? There is no earning that day, and there's no case on them, and the family goes hungry. So that was a common feature. The other common feature we noticed was when they would go on picking, this beggar homes would come and take them, thinking they're beggars. So,
Oh,
we would go and explain this is their work. They are not beggars. So, I mean, that fight of not beggar, we have done it till the national level, because even in national census, they were termed as beggars / waste pickers. We had to make it two different
two
things.
different.
Yeah. So those were some of the things which we kept doing it. We would go and release them from the beggar home, and then we would go and talk to the officers and say, they are in this area, they come every day, why are you rounding them up? And telling them what is this. Even police knew the scrap dealer, they didn't know much about waste pickers, so we had to tell them. So those are some of the challenges we had and we faced, and now the trust between us has really, really strong. If we do something wrong, they are not scared. They will come and tell you on the face what you're doing is wrong. So we fight with each other, argue with each other, laugh with each other, cry with each other, and eat with each other. That kind of building that relationship has taken time. So that was one of the main challenge. The second challenge was also when we started talking about dry waste collection center in the city. The commissioner said, what are you talking, Nalini? Where is the space in Bangalore? we can give you 1, 2, 3, but today we have 141 and plus. So
True.
there is place, and there you have to make your heart and mind open, saying that this is a good system for circularity or solid waste management also. So that was one. And then, of course, there were a lot of people who thought, oh, there's an NGO which has come, they will come work for 10, 1 year, 2 year when they have funding and go away. We had no funding. We had no funding. How we were able to organize is the workforce itself. So we would identify leaders within the community. They volunteered. The community volunteered, and that's why we were able to. Like 4 people, how can we organize all, throughout Bangalore? So right from the beginning, we had this thing. We will not give you any money to come to our office to meet, come and meet. If you think it is worth your time, you please come. So we have encouraged that kind of leadership right from the beginning.
Okay. I guess it has become like a one big family wherein, like, all the stakeholders are living together, working together, pulling each other together to move towards becoming leaders in this space. And that is a very inspiration thing for people like me, youth like me, who would want to do more than what we are doing currently in this space. Nalini, coming to the present scenario, with so much talks happening around circular economy, to, wanting to transition towards, like, from becoming linear to circular, design for circularity, design for recyclability, and all of this. But what do you think? How can we ensure that this transition that we are looking to make from being linear to circular also maintains the dignity of these workers, or how we can ensure that they are, it's an inclusive circularity and they are given decent work opportunities in this space?
So yeah, I mean, now all of us are talking about circularity and all that, but waste speakers have been doing for ages, right? So, but it was a small portion of the whole waste, because why circularity has become the center stage is we have so many material that cannot be circular. It is end of life once it is produced. That's why we are now talking about designing the material, product that has a material that has recyclability, multiple recyclability, or more than end of life. So I think that is why it has come to forefront, and also misuse of all the facilities that we had. I remember when there was a wedding in my house, and we go to very expensive, kanchi sarees when we buy, they would give covers. It was beautiful, thick covers. My mother would keep it under the bed so it is nice and straight, and then we can reuse it. Right now, we pick it and throw it. So that kind of a convenience life that we have chosen is also an issue. That is why circularity has become. So I feel that we are also talking a lot. I mean, we were in INC 1 and 2 with the plastic treaty, where we are talking about just transition for waste pickers. What does it mean, just transition? Just transition was talked in the formal setup, like the coal factory and all that, but nobody had talked about just transition in an informal setup, which is much difficult than in a formal setup. So the waste picker articulated it. Waste picker asked for it. So it's important to do the training for them to adapt to new ways of things. When 10 years back we said there'll be no waste, you have to learn to be a service provider, they laughed at us, right? But still we did not let it go. We taught them how to do composting, how do you manage dry waste collection center, because they're used to getting waste that has value. Dry waste collection center gets everything. I mean, today in our center only 40% of the waste you can sell, the rest is waste. At this point of time, you can't do everything, recycle everything. But people think if I'm just giving you dry waste, that means it's all right, recycle. It's not so. No, it is not true. So those kind of education and training, we started doing the first level of training with the scrap dealers to run the dry waste collection center. Then all the waste pickers came and shouted at us, this is our organization. Why aren't you giving us the opportunity to run it? And they did not, they don't read and write. So we had to revamp our training material, training, how we train and all that. So today at the end of it, we have at least about 45 women entrepreneurs. Today they are filing their income tax return. and then each one of them will give jobs for anywhere between 4 and 80 people. So that transition has happened because of our push for sure, and also their own aspiration to become big, their own aspiration to live longer, their own aspiration to get their children better education, better livelihood, better living standards, right? So that aspiration has driven, it has helped us also. How? The more waste they collect in the city, the less it is on the street or landfill. So it is good. So you are giving a framework for them to do it, authorization for them to do it. This is the only city where the municipality has directly signed an MOU with waste pickers. And in the beginning they were doing it with us. We said no, no, okay, one year, I think 4 or 5 drivers collection center we had in our name. I said, look, we are not even registered. We might go away. These are your people, your city people. You start doing it. So the city took the chance and took that path to provide the services, to believe the poor to provide services, and that proved fine, right? So this is what the inclusivity in the circularity means. And you can't just talk about minimum wage. You said decent wage. I'm very happy to hear that decent wage articulation, because everybody says, oh, they should go to a minimum wage job, they'll get social security. What they get is ESI and PF. ESI and PF is not really social security. It's an obligation of an employer to give it to them, right? Yes. So we have to go much beyond. Now we have seen there are some people who want to do 9 to 5 jobs, fine, but most of them have an aspiration to become entrepreneurs. So when they want to become entrepreneurs, when you get a poor people to do take up an entrepreneurship, there should be a safeguard, social protection for them. So if they fail, there should be somebody to help. If they do very well, somebody to celebrate with. So that kind of a niche you have to create for them to be successful, right? So that is what we have done. What does support mean? How do you keep data? These are the people who didn't even know read and write, right? So we taught them how to at least write 1 to 10. Mm-hmm. And keeping the data, we used to have such big, large books because they couldn't write small. When you learn newly, you write small. Now, then we shifted them to A4 size. And now with small paces, they do and take a picture and send it. Some of them enter directly into the app. So that kind of a transition that is there need to be done. Investment need to be done to develop the community to become ready to be part of the circular economy. So even in the just transition in plastic treaty, what we asked just transition in last, they have agreed. This time we said just transition should be the core obligation of plastic treaty, not just like, okay, it's a principle. So they agreed. All the countries have agreed, and it's become a core obligation, which we are very happy. I don't think suddenly everything will change nationally, but international recognition is key. Yeah, so that's all. Yeah. Sorry, it was long answer for your question.
No, no, absolutely not. Because this is an important issue that needs to be taken into consideration. Because currently, uh, many a times, when a lot of these transitions are being planned, most of the times the marginalized communities are left out. They are not given importance because a lot of times this transition is only thought of from the point of view for the people who have a good livelihood, or who are who are well off in their financial capacity, and only those are taken into consideration when a drastic change is happening. But many a times a lot of these drastic transformations again are uh, big impacts on the most vulnerable. Correct. And they are not able to then I think if we don't take them into consideration, it might even lead to them opposing the decision that is being taken, because it is not in their favor. Correct. So if we really want to make this transition, it needs to be at all levels of society, including those who have been doing this work at since so many years, probably because they might even have more expertise in this space than what we as individuals would have, as to understand what material is actually recyclable or can go back into the supply chain and what is not. Like many, as you mentioned, what is being now called as wish cycling. The term is being told as recycling, where people feel that all dry waste can be recycled, but actually it is not
It is
so.
not. Yeah.
Yeah. um, okay. Moving on, you mentioned about, like, the skill development that y'all have done, as to, like, trying to at least make them be able to read and write, or at least basic data that they can maintain from whatever collection that they are doing. What other strategies or policies you feel can be introduced in the skill development space, not limiting them to, like, just being waste pickers, but probably enhancing their skill in, maybe in the repair part, like, if we are looking to have the repair policy coming in place, so helping them to become more skillful in that space, and probably even upgrading them, their skills to what we would call as, like, not a white collar job, but probably at a more higher level in society. What do you think can be done in this space?
I think, I mean, what we have done is also kind of a reuse, kind of an economy that we have trained them. I think skilling them to being part of any kind of green economy, maybe it is redesigning or repurposing or, reuse and recycle anyway they do, repair. So that kind of a transition is absolutely okay. You talk to some of our waste because what do you want to see your child? Some people say, no, I want them to be like educated and be in an office like yours. But many of them say we want them to come back to waste work, but at a higher level, and they should be educated and come. So, and also there's a lot of waste because children aspire to be much higher in the waste business. So those are some of the opportunities definitely we need to provide. And and there is a disconnect from their life to what is happening in policy, right? So that kind of a change that in the policy that we need to do, or we are going to do. So he is going to definitely help in the skilling. In the skilling also, now there are some ways because we will not move out of waste, so there are a lot of like till 40-45 people who are there. How do we skill them to be in the waste business? People are beyond that who don't. 1 minute.
Yes, sure.
So who are wanting to do a little more work and want to move ahead, how do we kind of train them? For we have to make our training methodology, our rigorousness in training to match their need. For example, if you want to really look at green skilling, 1 minute.
Yes, please.
Green skilling business, lot of green skill says, okay, you have to have 30 hours. You have to come 30 hours and do the training. Only then you get the certification. But 30 hours, they can't afford to come and sit here, right? Can we break that 30 hours into maybe 5 days, 6 days, and have a half a day? Are you willing to move your way of working like that? Even for them to come and work, for example, they're used to having that flexibility in their work, especially women, which really works for them. They can get their children to school. Before going to school, they do one round, come back, take send the children to school, go back for the second round, then the sorting. So that flexibility of work, which all of us love, right? Even they love it. When it comes to the poor, you want the flexibility to be taken away. 8 hours you have to work. How do we create? There's one person I know in Kanpur who does flowers, fool, which make powder.
Yeah. Yes.
Lot of different products he does. He has kept his timing open. Anybody can come, work 4 hours and go back, work 5 hours and go back. That kind of a flexibility. What we do, we want our work done in 8 hours, so we push them to do the work in the way we know how it should be worked. So those kind of flexibility has to be there, both in our design designing of our businesses and also designing of our program. Like for example, today we have Indumati who has about 88 people in working with her. She can't read and write. She just cannot. But she's giving everybody their salary on a online. Not in the bank online, but on the mobile apps that you have. So
Okay.
she figures out 88 people. I can't give 88 people on one day because there's a limit. So from she has, I mean, it's amazing how they come up with their own solution. So from first to fifth, she pays for the drivers and helpers. From fifth to 10th for all the sorters. After 20th, she pays all the utility. So they have figured out their own way of doing. So everything is online. So she's filing income tax return now. She's filed, I mean, she has also has company now in her name. So
Mhm.
those kind of what we have done is provide that ecosystem for them to develop. And usually what happens in order to keep track of their for the company, whatever they do, or even the dana makers, the processors in Naindhalli, most of them have grown from these communities, and then they don't know how to keep accounts and be whatever papers that need to be submitted to PCB. So they spend a lot of money in that particular, like if they need two clerks, they have three. If they need two accountant, they have three. There's so much of redundancy. So can we look at having a pooled resources which is reasonable and trustworthy, that people can come? Like for all the drivers collection center, we have identified a person who can file their all the required documents for labor, required document for taxes and everything. So we have identified them, we have empaneled them, they pay themselves. We don't have to pay, they pay themselves. But this kind of a collective resources or shared resources is something that you can do. So there are so many things one can do in order to integrate them.
Absolutely. Uh, a lot of, I think it would be safe to summarize and say that basically, if we are looking to skill the force, first thing is look at the opportunities that are available for them. Second, and a very important thing is flexibility in the training part as well as in their working part, where they are able to balance their personal life as and responsibilities with the work they are doing, and pooling in resources that don't lead to any redundancy,
Expert.
not just in the form of material resources but also human resources per
Correct.
se. Okay. uh, the Moving on to one important question that has been I really wanted to ask you. uh, the theme for this year's World Environment Day was Beat Plastic Pollution. And as you mentioned that you were present during the Global Plastics Treaty last week, the INC2 that happened. Um, what is your vision that you would want to see, not just from of course the just transition, but actually having a framework for how this plastic waste that is getting generated can be since plastic is there in a lot of the products that we use, and it is not something that we can let go of overnight. It is going to be again a process wherein we will have to look for alternatives, and even understand whether those alternatives are good replacements for the kind of properties that plastic provides. What is your vision that the Global Plastics Treaty should look at to try and manage the material of plastic and make it as circular as possible?
So first, I will tell you what waste pickers are across the world articulating. So
Yeah.
we have International Waste Picker Alliance, which represent about 20 million workers. So when we discuss what you want to do in all these INC meetings, we don't negotiate. We are there to support the workers, and they themselves, I mean, they become an agency to represent themselves. So that's important, right? So I mean, maybe in one or two occasions I've been talking to people, but mostly it was waste pickers who are articulated what they're talking about. Stop. There are some plastic which can be stopped. You should stop, especially multi-layered plastic, that kind of a thing, and reduce toxicity in our plastic. That is one thing that definitely they are saying. And then really manage, don't landfill. And these are any environmental groups will also talk about. And also they're talking about, if you bring an alternative, if you do anything, bring something after studying the life cycle of any material, and it should not harm. And they are the only people in INC who said the one person who is not there at the table is environment. Let's represent them. Let's represent the environment. So they are the one who really talked about it so eloquently. So so for us, that is very important. Even plastic has to be reduced and end it, and whatever the treaty finally agrees to do it, let them do it. But at this point of time, whatever waste is already in the, we have for 6 generation, it is enough. That much plastic we already have in the environment. To manage that, they have talked about it. And they're saying, if you're moving forward, you bring technology that is human friendly and environment friendly. That is what the 2 things that they have been talking about it. And I also trust and believe what they are saying, definitely. And how do we do that? Is not like one person, 2%, but everybody has to do first personally, then the state should take a stand, and internationally also there should be a stand. Only then can we really address it meaningfully. So meaningful engagement in all these dialogues with everybody, all stakeholder, is very, very key.
Yes, absolutely. Like, the technology that they're trying to bring in should be human friendly and environment friendly, because we've already seen that plastics are impacting us in a negative way. We don't want the solution to this to also impact us in a negative way. And
Absolutely.
probably the solutions need to be long term. They should not be short term, wherein we are just
Correct.
thinking, okay, like, whatever waste that is there in the landfills or oceans, we just retrieve it and make it something into something, so that we are not letting it go into the environment. But what about whatever we are making into, what about the life cycle of that
Of that.
product? Eventually that is also going to reach its end of life. And are we able to going to be able to retrieve the material that has gone into that, to be able to put it back into the supply chain? Or is it going to be detrimental at its end of life, is something that is a matter of concern. And I think the representing environment is important in most of these sessions. We've almost come to the end of our fireside chat, and it is wonderful to talk to you. We do have one or two questions that have come from the audience. Would it be okay to take them?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, one question that has been asked is that if there is someone who wants to replicate the model of Hasiru Dala in their own city, how should they proceed with it?
Sure. So a lot of time people ask us, are you not coming to our city? So our interest is not becoming, as I go to every city and I do it, unicorn. Hasiru Dala should not be a unicorn, but the concept of Hasiru Dala should be a unicorn. To that extent, we are really happy to share what we have learned, and you don't have to struggle what we struggled in the beginning. We have come to a level where we have policies in place. When we started, there was no policy, no awareness in people. All those hurdles are gone. So now if you want to replicate in your city, you're welcome to come stay with us for 3 months, learn what we do, or come for a month, learn what we do. And when you go back, we will also handhold. So that is not a problem, as long as you are working with waste picker and integrating them. That's a must. It's not a waste management business that we teach. We teach how to integrate waste pickers in the waste management. To that extent, if anybody is interested, connect with us, info@hasrudala.in, and we'll be happy to do. In fact, after 2025 Jan, I'm thinking of completely doing that work, supporting anybody. There are a lot of youngsters who are coming and saying, we want to do this. In our office itself, we have so many different kinds of skill set people coming to work with us. And, somebody from urban planning, and somebody from design in public place designing, and some we have architects. so many people are coming and working. It keeps our working space also very vibrant and very agile, so that we can adapt to new things. So I learned so much from young people, and you guys are thinking very differently, looking at differently. So I also get energy from people who come with different perspective to work with us and want to replicate. So please do. We'll be happy to help in any way we can.
I guess that vision of you being always open and so approachable is why I think is the success behind Hasiru Dala, is what we believe. There is one more question. Um, a lot of this work when it comes to waste management is happening in a lot of silos. Probably, like, now if we look at the Indore model of waste management, where, like, it is being considered as one of the very good models which is being followed and helping to keep the city clean. What the work that you are doing in Bangalore has, like, improved the waste management structure in the city. But how do you think can this whole process of improving the waste management cycle be applied through, like, the whole country in different metropolitan cities? How can collaborations and partnerships can be done so that, like, this work doesn't stay in silos, but it becomes like an integrated systemic movement?
See, I think, waste is a city subject. It's not a national subject, right? So each city takes its stand on what they want to do, and in Indore they moved all the waste pickers out of the system first. Now they are trying to get them in. So that is not okay for us. For us, waste pickers should be there. So it depends on the city how they want to do. So that is why the silos will start happening, because legally that is the framework. But what I'm seeing more and more, a lot of private people think, okay, if private sector, we can handle it all. But what I clearly tell you is, without the proper policies and laws and working with the local government, you can never be successful in waste. Waste is a very, very local subject, even people who are working in it. So collaboration is a must. With even citizens should be there. So if you don't have a collaboration, you want to do it in silos, it is going to be very, very tough to move forward. Now, everybody thinks, recycling has a lot of money. Everybody is saying, oh, I've done IIT, and I'm going to come and do. But there is money for people who put their waste with their hands into waste, not for people who actually. So collection, aggregation, all that, you still leave it to the informal sector. No, invest in the informal sector to become bigger. After that, the new investment should come for new design, new thinking, whatever is there. So if you don't include waste pickers in your collection system and say, I will do it myself, it will not work, because collecting through the informal sector is the most efficient and economically as well as sustainability wise.
Yes, they are one of the most important stakeholders in this whole system, whether we are looking to transition to circularity, whether we are looking at sustainability, or whether we are trying to create a positive impact on the environment and also in the social aspect. Wonderful. We've come to the end of our fireside chat today. Before we end this conversation, is there any take back message that you would like to give for our wonderful viewers?
First thing is segregate waste, and that everybody has to do. And that's not the role of collector, but it's the role of the producer, that is you and me at home. And second thing is, at least on the street, if you see a waste picker, say hello. Providing that kind of a dignity and recognition is very, very, very important. And if you want to do anything in waste as an entrepreneur, please include waste pickers. That would be my appeal. And many times we learn so much. I know that There's a software developer who, worked with Krishna, one of our waste pickers, in a hackathon. And actually, his app is much more stronger and better than people who has done app on their own, how to do it, right? Because they know the know-how, practicality of any app working. So just include them. They both have done a company together. So those are some of the ways that you can definitely contribute.
Okay. Thank you so much once again, Nalini, for sharing your passion and expertise with us. Your courage and dedication to bring in an inclusive material circularity is truly inspiring, and we are grateful for your contribution towards a more sustainable world. As for you, wonderful viewers, thank you for joining us in this thought provoking conversation. Next time you discard your waste without proper segregation, please think about our wonderful waste pickers who are trying every bit to keep our environment clean and helping you to maintain the value of the resources that you consume. And as Nalini mentioned, give them the dignity that they deserve, because after all, they are just a fellow human being and not someone who you should look down upon. And hoping to see you in our next episode. Till then, bye bye, and keep following us on our social media channels. Thank you.
Thank you.